Welcome to Lee Pitts Live. I'm today's guest host, Samira Beckwith, and we're here at Naples Botanical Garden, and it is such a pleasure to be here and to introduce my guest for today, no other than Lee Pitts. So,
Yay!
Lee, welcome.
This is so strange. I'm on the opposite side. You've taken over the hosting chair, and I couldn't think of a better person to chat with me now in our 32nd year on the air than Samira Beckwith, my good friend for over 30 years. Can you believe it's been that long?
No, and it's just been so much fun to watch the way that you have developed your show, the way that you've developed your community connections, and so I believe that it's really important for people in the communities that listen and that we serve, to know more about you, because Randy Henderson, the mayor at the time, said you are an icon and a community treasure. I happen to believe that, and so today we're going to talk about you. I want to start with asking you about your background. Before you became a famous TV host and a community icon, tell me what you were doing.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the mayor of Fort Myers, Randy Henderson, for making saying those kind words about me. And I could not have dreamed in my humble beginnings that one day a mayor of a city would even say those types of words about me, because I literally grew up in poverty. My mom raised 7 children by herself for all practical purposes. My dad was in and out, but I'm a product of a single parent household, and in Birmingham, Alabama. And if one had looked at me at that time, they could have imagined what would happen in the future, nor could I have ever imagined. And people bump into me now, my college friends, my high school friends, oh, we knew you would do okay in life. Oh, we knew all of this. And I don't know how to take that sometimes, but I know I didn't know it. I just knew that I was just kind of chopping wood along the way and trying to do things that, basic values that were instilled in me by my mom and my dad as well, and in the church. So I grew up in the church, and I think those basic principles of the church and learning and listening to the pastor and going to Sunday school and all of those kind of values along the way kind of helped me to navigate through growing up in public housing in Birmingham and the Collegeville housing project, where I had great friends, great nurturing environment. Everybody looked out for each other, but it was still, limited income, limited everything. And I didn't know how other people lived. I mean, I live a pretty nice lifestyle now, but now I was like, oh, this is how people lived? They didn't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They don't have to worry about when the food stamps are going to come out and the welfare check. So I had to adjust to that. And they don't know how when they go to the gas pump, and they pump their gas, and they fill their tank up every time and don't even think about it. Whereas we would go to the gas tank and we would put $1 worth in there or $2 worth in there. I just thought that's just the way it works. And now I fill my tank up.
Well, your journey to me sounds as though it began even with a sense of community growing up. And your community was different. Your family instilled community values that you've carried forward.
Yes.
So fast forward a little bit. So Birmingham, Alabama fan?
Yes, Roll Tide. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Roll Tide, Nick Saban, all of that. But when you grow up in Alabama, for the most part, you're an Alabama football fan and you're a diehard. And you get indoctrinated into that from the time you're sort of born. And I came up in the 60s when all my friends were Alabama fans and some were Auburn fans, but for the most part, and because we still don't have any professional NFL teams in Birmingham or in the state of Alabama, that the college football program has become everything, because that is the pro program for the state of Alabama. So.
And we've all seen that every football season. So let's roll forward a little bit. And how did you get to Florida?
Oh, okay. So that's a good question. People may not, well, let me just go to how I got to Florida. I won't go back that far. But yeah, I'll go back that far. I had a short stint in Florida in the early 1980s, 60s.
Okay.
When my mom and dad separated when I was 3 years old, she moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, to live with my uncle Andrew. And so from 1963 to 1966, I actually lived in Florida. So I was from 3 years old to 6 years old.
Okay.
All right. Then from there, my mom and dad tried to get back together, so she went back to Birmingham. When she left Birmingham to come to Florida, that was one of the great things that happened to us, because we got a better education in the Florida, my first grade education, and then I went to Head Start in Florida. The system was better than the segregated school system in Birmingham started off. That was right during segregation. Right. I know a lot of these things now from reading. At the time I didn't understand racism and all of that. But then, so we went back to Birmingham, and then I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, for the most part.
Okay.
But coming back to Florida years later, after I got my master's degree, and that's a whole nother story, coming from poverty, getting a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and then becoming a banker. My banking job out of Atlanta University, I went to Carver High School. I have to say these names because they'll say you're not mentioning us on TV, Lee. They watch this religiously.
Well, and we don't want them to put you on the naughty list or the bad list.
Right. So let me get a couple of names in,
okay.
Samira, then I'll bring you there. So after I grew up in Birmingham Collegeville Housing Projects, then I went to Hudson Elementary School. There was no middle school at that time. And then I went to Carver High School in Birmingham. And from Carver, I went to Talladega College, a historical black college just outside of Birmingham, a great HBCU. And from there, I went to Atlanta University, another black graduate school, where I got my master's degree. And there I got recruited on campus, which was a wonderful experience. It was my first time flying on an airplane. I'm 24, 25 years old, would be my first time flying on an airplane. I interviewed on campus, and a lot of these bankers were impressed with me. I decided early on I wanted to be a banker, and they started flying me into the corporations around the country for interviews. Wow. And my first time on a flight, I flew to Houston, Texas, on an airplane at 25. When most people fly a lot younger, my son is flying younger. He won't even remember the first time he flew. But people take that for granted. I say that so people who relate to me, and I think a lot of people relate to me because they know I lived what was at the bottom of America's poverty system. And but anyway, I took the job in the National Bank of Detroit after I had a lot of offers. That would be the first time that I would actually move away from poverty. And so I remember the letter that came in the mail offering you $25,000.
Seemed like a lot of money, didn't it?
Yes. To go into the management training program at the National Bank of Detroit. I went to Detroit and I got on-the-job training at that large bank at the time, like 1985. I worked up there for about 3 years, and it was so cold. I tell people that. And then I was like, hey, I got to get out of this place. I got to get back to the South.
Right.
But the people, and the great experience in Detroit. And then, so I started circulating my resume in warm weather climate places. And I had lived here in Florida before. My uncle was still here. And so that was one of the places I sent it. I even sent it to Hawaii. Try to work for the Bank of Hawaii, but get me out of this cold weather. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in a grand scheme of things. I came to Jacksonville. And I worked in Jacksonville as a credit analyst. And then then I got a promotion that brought me to Fort Myers.
Okay.
And then by age 29, I was a vice president at the bank. And then by age 32, I was a senior vice president at what you know today is Wells Fargo Bank. Along all of that, as life was just opening up doors for me, I sort of got discovered and then ended up in television and banking simultaneously while building swimming programs all around everywhere that I moved with my career.
Well, I want to hear about those swimming programs because you were featured on ABC TV, Good Morning America, and we'll talk about that in just a minute when we come back from commercial break.
Okay, cool.
Welcome back to Lee Pitts Live, and I'm Samira Beckwith, the guest host, and my guest, Lee Pitts. So, Lee, before we went to break, we were talking about the morning show that you were featured on because of your swimming program. People might not know that you are a great swimmer, a swimming coach.
That's sort of an understatement.
I was going to say a swimming star. So you tell us the detail about it.
I'm a pretty decorated swimming instructor.
Yes.
and there are certain demographics of people who, whenever they see me, they still see me as this swimming instructor. And no matter how much you see me on television in the public eye, people that I've touched over the years, the thousands of children that I've taught, and parents that have brought their kids to swim lessons. And for the most part, I volunteered a lot of my swimming teaching time once I became an adult. I started off as a young lad early on in the housing projects where I got my early swimming lessons at Macklin Park in Birmingham, Collegeville housing projects, and I swam competitively in all of these things. But the interesting thing people may not realize is that I didn't come about swimming lessons so easily. I eventually became a Hall of Fame swimming instructor, and I put out a Learn to Swim DVD that became a bestseller all over the world. But get those first swimming lessons, you might find this of interest, Samira, is that my mom couldn't afford for me to go to the swimming pool. And it was 50 cents a day. And I tell the story of overcoming challenges, and I think it still benefits me to this day of figuring out how to do things. So I needed to get 50 cents to go to the pool. My mom said, I don't have 50 cents for you to go to that nasty pool. That's what she would call it. And it ended up being a blessing in disguise. But she said, if you can figure out how to pay your way to the pool, you can go. So I'm only 6 years old.
Right.
So how do I pay how do I get money? How do I get it?
Exactly.
That started me with my first job. I got my first job at 6 years old, and I've had a job ever since. So I started, my mom used to send me to the store with deposit bottles. You old enough to remember deposit bottles. This generation, they don't know anything about deposit bottles. And you could get 5 cents for a bottle, a soda bottle. And she used to send me to the store to buy something, and she'll give me these bottles, and she'd say, okay, when you get to the cash register, they're gonna also give you money for these bottles. You take this change here, and the money you get from the bottles, and you put it all together, you're gonna have enough money to pay for whatever I was buying, maybe a loaf of bread, a dozen of eggs, whatever, and I bring it home.
Right.
Back then, a 6-year-old could go to the store up the street, and nobody would bother you. Anyway, so these bottles are worth money.
Right.
So I made it up in my mind when she said, if you can get your 50 cents, you can go to the pool. I started walking around in the neighborhood every day, looking on the ground for bottles.
Right.
And I needed 10 bottles to get 50 cents. They were 5 cents a piece. And I would go to the store and cash them in, and I walk on up the street to the swimming pool, and I paid for myself to get in. And because I paid to get in, looking back, I took it a lot more seriously than a lot of my other friends.
Right.
And I quickly learned how to swim, and then they put me in a Learn to Swim program. The lifeguard discovered me there, training myself, and they had a free Learn to Swim program that they put me in, and I eventually became a competitive swimmer. But when they put me in the Learn to Swim program, I progressed so fast, they started letting me help them teach. So at 6 years old, I started helping them teach, and that was the beginning of me becoming a swimming instructor.
You know what, and it's also the beginning of you putting into practice what you've continued to do over the years, and that is to continue to grow, think about how to put different programs together. And so that, I remember when we met, and we met in a studio, a building where you were filming.
Yes.
Lee Pitts Live. I was filming.
It's on the corner of College and 41, yeah. College Parkway and 41.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a TV show, Hope Hospice Presents. You had your TV show.
You had a great TV show.
Thank you. And you were my guest many times.
Yes.
And fortunately, I've been your guest many times. So we met at that show, or that studio, and then I had the opportunity to see a video of you being celebrated as a swim instructor, and then had an opportunity to get to know you and to know the contributions that I believed you were going to be making to the community. So how did you decide to go from swim instructor, Hall of Fame, banking, to a TV show? Because I know how I got there. How did you get to a TV show?
The interesting thing about that is they were all tied together, and one would not have happened without the other. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to swimming for a minute so people can take something from this, is that when I was teaching, when I became an adult and became financially okay to teach swimming without being paid, I started to volunteer in the inner city, or what was at the Stars Complex in Fort Myers.
Okay.
right there in the heart of the African American community. And I would do learn to swim programs for free for people, for kids. And the reason I did that, people had no concept of why I was doing it. Now, I was certified scuba diver. I had a whole lot of credentials at that time, and I had already coached championship swim teams as a college student in Birmingham. I was already an accomplished swimming instructor, but I decided to take my skills and put them in the community for free. And the reason I did that, Samira, remember I told you about hustling those soda bottles to
Yes.
pay for my way? I understood the plight of different children whose parents did not have the money to pay for them to have fancy swimming lessons, yet they shouldn't grow up in society because of their station in life not being safe around water and knowing how to swim, and all the other fun that comes from knowing how to swim, not just drown prevention, but just being confident around the water in scuba diving, boating, skiing, snorkeling, fishing, and somebody push you in some water, you can swim.
Right.
Okay, so nobody knew that was why I was doing what I was doing for free, to open up opportunities for people who wouldn't normally get those opportunities. So thousands of children got taught in the process. While I was a swimming instructor, I ended up being invited on television shows to talk swimming.
Okay.
At this point, I'm already a bank vice president, a little young bank vice president. But I'm being invited to talk about swimming because of what I was doing in the community. People thought it was a big deal. The local news thought it was a big deal that I was there. I never thought it was a big deal. I thought it was what I was supposed to be doing, helping these children to learn to swim. So they would come out and do profiles on me, and then and I get invited on, and I talk on the shows. And so eventually, NBC2, shout out to NBC2, they came to me about putting together some PSAs, learn to swim tips, water safety tips, and all these types of things. And I put those together for them. We did a lot of television commercials that were airing all times of the day, and they were airing in the Cosby Show. They were airing in the nightly news. They were airing in the soap operas during the daytime. And I would be on television talking swimming, these 30-second commercials. And then I became known all around Southwest Florida as the swim guy in the black wetsuit. And then the ladies were coming out of the woodworks and all of that. But at the end of the day, it was like I was being displayed as my ability to take something simple, complex, and make it real simple, talking about various tips on swimming. And then as a result of that, I got noticed and started being offered, hey, would you be interested in having your own television show? That was the farthest thing from my mind.
I bet. And
but
then,
check this out before I close this out, Samira. Had I not hustled those soda bottles,
right.
when my mom said you can figure out a way to go swimming, none of those things would have ever happened, because then I became an accomplished swimming instructor. As an accomplished swimming instructor, and I've laid out some of those things, then I'd get discovered as that. I get on television, and then I get offered the opportunity to host a TV show. And we're now in our 32nd year.
Yes. Well, you know what? That's such an important point, though.
Wow.
It is a very important point that one door opens, and we don't know what the next door is going to be. And continue to build and to move forward is very important. So I think it's really good that you shared where you started, because that really helps to shape where you are today and how you got to 32 years, on TV.
And when I came into a television, I had no idea that I'd be around for 32 years. I figured I'd do a show, a couple of months, and it'd be off the air, and I would be able to put a VHS cassette, and when people come over and I say, one time I hosted this TV show, let me show you, I was on TV. And everybody would look at it as a conversation piece, because it wasn't something that I had sought to do. I never went to school for it. I had no desire to be in the public eye. I was just a straight-laced, pinstripe blue, wingtip shoes banker. And I got thrust into the public eye, and then one thing led to another, which led to another, and then next thing you know, I'm doing, meeting all these great people, meeting people like you along life journey, meeting all these angels who open up doors for more doors for me. I call people angels. They walk amongst us.
Yeah, that's really a nice
people,
term.
Right. people think that angels, a lot of people see the visual angels with the wings and all that, but there are angels a long life journey that open up doors for you, people that you meet, they ingratiate you. You ingratiated me, I ingratiated you. Over 30 years ago, we stayed friends. And then I saw you rise and build a big organization, Hope Healthcare, to what it has become, a big outstanding place where people can come for afterlife care. So all end of life care. So you meet these people on the way and you don't know. Like, I don't know when I met you, hey, 25 years ago, again, Samira would be interviewing me.
No.
See, it's just, life is great.
You know what, it is great. And it is, I think, a lesson for everybody, because it just shows how we can continue to move forward, and connections are so important, which leads me to my next question about connections, because I'm just curious, and I know that other people are curious about this, how you moved from Lee Pitts Live TV show, which has now really become a brand.
Yes.
And it's become more than a TV show. And it's become, Lee Pitts at work, after work, this and that. And let me continue. You have
right.
You have rooms named after you. People know Lee Pitts Live, and so it's more than a show. It's a great show, educates people, brings people together, which I always appreciate. At the same time, it's more. So tell me how that step moved forward.
Well, very interesting. Some of the things that you mentioned, I'll simplify them for people. Like Hodges University named this student union the Lee Pitts Student Union. Who would have thought, right?
Right.
And then, there's other things all around my high school, big to do at my high school back in Birmingham, being inducted into my high school Hall of Fame, being the youngest person to ever be inducted in there, and certainly didn't go in there for sports. I went in there for academics. I was president of the student body when I was in high school as well, and it was like my life accomplishments to be inducted into the hall. And when you walk into my high school in Birmingham, Carver High School, you see this big portrait of me hanging up there. I'm like, whoa, I'm still alive, people, I'm still alive. But all these things I could never have dreamed, but I know as a little kid I wanted to be something. I didn't see it, how, but I just felt like I want to be something in life. And I think that's a good foundation for anybody who might feel like their future is dashed, to look at it like that. And then Lee Pitts Live, right? Lee Pitts Live. I didn't even like my name as a child.
Interesting.
And now it's like a brand. So I thought it was not exotic enough. Lee Pitts, that's boring. Just 3 letters for my first name, 5 letters for my second name. I don't have anything exotic like Samira. And other kids in the class had these nice long names like Denzel or Jermaine or something. So that name that I thought was boring, named after my father, became a brand. So then, like Lee Pitts Live After Work now, where we bring in over 200 people every other month to put on a social and networking event with a live band, and everybody comes out and people looking at images of that now. And all the proceeds from the door I donate to local nonprofits. And I don't keep a penny. And it's helping give back to the community, and people come because of the brand, the name. When they say, okay, something Lee Pitts Live is putting on, Lee Pitts is putting on, it's associated with excellence, and it's associated with this is going to be nice, it's going to be quality. And people made it what it is today. People made the TV show what it is today. I'm just here doing what I do. They start tuning in, they start watching, they come out to my event, and Samira, will not let me fail. Well,
You know what? It's a networking opportunity. It's a community opportunity. It's a connection. And I think those are the opportunities that you bring for people, to be able to be connected. Connected through radio, through TV, through the events that you hold. And also, you made the comment about the photo of you at your high school at the Hodges University room. You know, it gives people the opportunity to think, you know what, I want to know more about his journey because I want to follow maybe some of the same route, not exactly that you took, but to understand that there's a way to get from here to there. And I think it does all go back to those bottles that you collected and you were thinking then.
But one of the things I want to say along that way, because that's a good point, branding. drinking out of my mug.
You know, I love this about you because
People, there's nothing in the mugs. People always say, "What's in the mug, Lee?" There's nothing in the mugs. If I had to give somebody some advice, I would say you can't plan these things out. Okay, whatever has happened to me, and I don't think I'm a big deal. I always don't let myself think that I'm a big deal. But the small things that have happened to me, the blessings that have been bestowed upon me, I'm grateful for that. But you can't start off thinking that this is the way it's going to be. You know, you're going to end up with your own television production company, your own radio production company, own your business. No, I don't work for anybody. Nobody's telling me what to do. I own all of that. And that you're going to take your television show on the road and be the first show in the area to take your show on the road. And that you're going to have all these limitations because you're African American. You won't be able to do this in Southwest Florida. And all these things that have just not affected me in the grand scheme of things. I never planned it. But there were certain things that were in place that you can attest to as the leader that you are. That you have certain leadership skills, certain amount of charisma that you might be blessed with, an ability to get people to move in the same direction, win friends, influence people, and get things done. Then you have a certain thing that you have to do in terms of your character. Character. How people see you in terms of your character and how you treat people. How nobody is big here and little there, all these kind of things. And then your human capital. Spend your time developing your human capital, people. What do I mean by that? Develop what's inside of you, your brain, and what you can contribute as a human. That capital is valuable. When you develop your human capital, then it opens these doors for other opportunities that may come your way, and you're prepared to take advantage of those things. Because so doing television, I had no interest in that. I had no desire for that. I thought that was for, you know, pie and somebody else. But when the opportunity came, when I was offered to host a TV show, and I eventually accepted after turning it down 3 times. I turned down the opportunity to host a show 3 times, and eventually over about a 9-month period, I agreed to host a TV show. Early on when I hosted the show, the name of the show, they asked me, they said, "What do you want to name this talk show, Lee? You're going to be the first African American in Southwest Florida with a television show, and still the only African American with a television talk show. And I would love for other African Americans to have a talk show. That's not something I'm jumping up and down about. But what would you like to name the show?" I didn't want my name to be in the front, Samira.
What did you?
I said Up Close with Lee Pitts. And we had Up Close in big letters and Lee Pitts in little bitty letters.
I forgot that.
And that put me in the background. I want my name up front.
Right.
And now my name is up front, right? Lee Pitts Live. And let me tell you how I ended up front, so people might find this interesting. So my name, the name of my show was Up Close with Lee Pitts. People remember that back in the early, around 1991 when we first launched the show. And the critics said that the show would not last a year. They said I wouldn't be able to get enough gas. They said I had no experience in television, and that I'd probably be around less than a year, and that'll be the end of the whole Lee Pitts experience. But of course, that didn't manifest itself. Here we are 32 years later.
Right.
So the news press and NBC2, ABC7, Wink, all these news people came out to cover my show when I hosted a debate. I was a local guy, hosted a mayoral debate on my show. Nobody else had a format like this where you could host a debate between T. Wayne Miller and Bruce Grady.
Yeah, now I recall that.
And then when they wrote about my show, that back then you would wait till the next day to read the newspaper.
Yes.
They all called to see if they could come to the studio to cover the debate. And then when they put it on the evening news and all of that, they all called it Lee Pitts Live. They called it Lee Pitts Live.
Yeah.
They said, we're here at Lee Pitts Live. Lee Pitts is going to host this mayoral debate and this and that. And then in the paper the next day, they talked about how they thought that I had handled the debate very well and that a new star is born, right? I was upset. Why are they calling my show Lee Pitts Live? That's not the name of my show. You're not showing me enough respect. Can you at least get the name of my show right? I'm over here by myself doing this pioneering thing, and all the fancy news stations, they come in and they won't even take the time to pronounce the name of the show right. But a friend of mine said, don't be upset, Lee. Look at all the ink. Look at it. You just turn the name to the show to Lee Pitts Live going forward, and you won't have that problem anymore because they see you. They think that the show is named after you. Don't get upset. So that next couple of weeks later, I changed the name of the show to Lee Pitts Live, and now here we go.
Well, you know what? I'm going to summarize some of the things you said. Be humble, be grateful, utilize the skills you have, make connections, and remember to be kind to people.
Yes.
Because you don't know who you're going to see later and how you're going to maybe be able to utilize that connection. Not in a way that is negative, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Because it's about building together.
And from that spin-off, I got a chance to launch a lot of other people's television careers, create shows like Tisha and Toya and other people who've spun off, and Nikki, who does Talking Education. She has a segment on the show, and we have all different types of segments, so I'm able to take the TV show and build opportunities for other people.
Exactly, and so this is why I've just appreciated our friendship for so many years, and the fact that you make people feel comfortable when they come on the show. You highlight their skills, their gift to the community, what they're doing. And so it really is about that coming together. And I just appreciate being your guest host today.
Well, piggybacking on what you just said, when mankind, human beings, understand that the uplifting of other people, and they ingratiate that and not as some facade or just some talk. And they understand that when other people succeed in life, when they succeed, you succeed. If you can help people succeed, you succeed. So always err on the side of trying to help somebody. As Dr. King once said, help somebody. As Dr. King said, if you can't walk, run. If you can't run, well, let me reverse it. He said, Dr. King said, if you can't fly, drive.
Drive.
If you can't drive, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, just keep moving.
Well, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And, you know, people often ask me at Hope, you know, how can you do this kind of work? And I always think about the fact that it's important to look at what you can do, which is similar to what you just talked about. You know, don't focus on what you can't do or what you don't have, because that's not going to move you forward. But look at what you do have, how you can build, and what you can do. So it's just a pleasure to be with you today and to be able to spend this time. And I think it's really important for people to know more about you. You know, you share so much about everybody else that I'm so pleased that you shared so much about yourself today and your journey. And I'm going to look forward to watching more of your shows, maybe being a guest in the future, maybe guest hosting again.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Being a part of the future with you.
Yeah, we've grown together, and every time you interview me, you bring out, you know, something else in me.
Well, and what is it that you always say at your show about people who can't?
Those who say it can't be done. They're usually interrupted by those who are doing it. And now I got Miami has the oranges, but Fort Myers got the juice as well.
Yes.
So I'll give a little history on both of those.
Okay.
Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by those who are doing it. That sort of came from when I was a little boy. It's a Chinese proverb too, but at the time, this is when I heard it, and not in that exact form, but I brought it to the television when I was trying to figure out a way to close out the TV show. And now it's become synonymous with me, and people shout it out of their cars when they see me, wherever I go, you know, what's that saying that motivates me and all that. But when I was a little boy and I was a competitive swimmer, and I was in sort of in a world where there were not a lot of black kids swimming, right? So on my swim team, there were a lot of black kids, but as I started to advance and become more swimming for the Birmingham swim team and more advanced, I was only mostly swimming with white kids. And it was considered a white boy sport, swimming that was. And I came home one time sort of disenchanted that people were joking me and calling me a white boy. And when you're in the black community, you don't want to be called a white boy. And it's like you want to be known as black boy, and you black. So my friends and black kids in particular would joke me about, you're doing that white boy sport. Of course, we I already know what that so-called white boy sport did for my life, right? But at the time, I'm just a little boy, and then I come home, and so I was crying and all this. They keep calling me a white boy. I'm gonna quit swimming. I'm gonna quit swimming. And my dad said, hey, said it in his own way. Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by those who are doing it. He told me to keep swimming, do what you do what you do well. And I became extremely good at that. And so I kept that inside me. So I know it motivates people. I kept it in my head in college when I was struggling, thinking about quitting college, and in high school when things didn't go well at the beginning. Just I kept it in there, and then I brought it to the television show, and I see it motivates people. In fact, one time I was at the airport, and you know how back in the day, I don't know if they still do it, you have these boxes that you could put your garment in. They give you at the airport, and it can travel with you and it won't get wrinkled. So I was traveling with my suits in my banking days, and when my luggage came out on the other end, I'm thinking I was headed to Philly or wherever I was headed. My luggage came out. Somebody had written on the box, those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by those who are doing it. So it had to be somebody who worked at the airport, who dealt with the luggage and putting it on the plane, saw me in line or saw my name on the luggage, said, this is Lee Pitts. And they watched my television show, so they wrote it on there. And when I came around the conveyor belt, that was my luggage. And it had in a marker, those who say it can't be. I was like, wow, this is something. Isn't that something?
That is something. And you know what else it does, Lee? It kind of says to everybody that you don't know what words or what phrase might influence somebody, might motivate them. So be careful about the language that you use and think about how it might influence somebody. That's amazing.
Yeah. And Miami has people want to hear this. They want to know how they come up with this. Miami has the oranges, but Fort Myers got the juice. So growing up, I used to love watching Howard Cosell.
Okay.
And he used to do Monday Night Football. And as the show became more and more synonymous with Fort Myers, people would say it's an ambassador for the city of Fort Myers and beaming all over the world now on social media and everything, that the television show had been sort of like the eye into little small Fort Myers, Florida. People see it all over the world. So even the mayor said, Mayor Kevin Anderson said, the television show is like the ambassador, one of the ambassadors for our fine city of Fort Myers. Of course, I'm in all over the region, but Fort Myers is where I would say the TV show started and is based. And even you, I don't think you've ever come out of that area to be on the show. I mean, you here in Naples now. We're at the Naples Botanical Garden. But so I was trying to think of a way to uplift Fort Myers even more.
Yes.
And most of the time people think about South Florida, Miami. So Howard Cosell used to say Miami on Monday Night Football when I was like teenage, like 12 years old, watching Howard Cosell, and all these things influenced how I did things and talk and do television. So I didn't realize watching Howard Cosell do sports that I was learning the importance of the vocals and how you speak and do things. Right. So I used to love hear him say it when O.J. Simpson was playing against the Miami Dolphins. O.J. Simpson, the great running back, was nicknamed the Juice.
Okay.
And he would always say that Miami might have the oranges, but the Buffalo Bills have got the juice.
So that's
right. So as time went, I kept it in my head,
Uh-huh.
and then I said, let's talk about Fort Myers, and I used that phrase. Miami might have the oranges. Shout out to Howard Cosell. But Fort Myers has got the
juice.
And that's the way it rolls.
Well,
people love it.
People love it. So Southwest Florida has the juice.
Yes.
Here we are in Naples at the Botanical Garden. Beautiful to be here today. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to hear more about your story and allow me to share it with the viewing public. And thank you for being here as my guest.
And I want to thank you for being so gracious.
Well, you
take time out of your valuable schedule.
Oh, Lee.
And you're always immaculately dressed. Well, I don't know if it's Chanel or Scotta or what, but when you come on the show, my ratings always go up.
Oh, you know what? I wear my best outfits on your show. Yes, of course. I'm not going to come here in my secondhand clothes, but you know what? With this, I'm going to say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, and I'm going to let you close out your show.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I love you. And let me think of something poignant that I might say. Look, for all these years, you guys have supported me, and I appreciate that. And I would not be in this particular position in life had it not been from the support of the community. I would never forget that. Also, I would never abandon my own community for some coin or some level of success or fame. You will always see me totally associated with my own community. We've been so blessed to have a broad community that has embraced us on television and on radio for all these years. And when you see Lee Pitts Live, I want you to see Lee Pitts Live as the community show, your show, and always trying to be a champion for what is good about Southwest Florida and Fort Myers.
Good job. Thank you.
We'll see.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello everybody, this is Lee. I'm so glad that you watched that particular show, and if you enjoyed that show, we got other shows like that. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch Lee Pitts Live on demand anytime, and also hit us up on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live, and there you go.